Hey, FanboyNation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
You're watching.
We're watching. You're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy. Fanboy.
Fanboy.
Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
FanboyNation.
Dot. I assume Tom.
This movie just made its premiere at the Comic-Con experience in São Paulo, Brazil. We got to get that correct because we are talking to Brazilian-Canadian filmmaker Marcus. One more time on the last name, please.
Alqueres.
Alqueres, thank you so much. I am terrible with pronunciations, especially when I don't speak Portuguese, so I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Listen, congratulations on your documentary-style film, Warden, about a young superhero that kind of goes his own little way, and not everybody is thrilled with the guy.
Yeah. No, we're excited to be releasing this this Friday, 14th, and yeah, I mean, we're excited and willing to talk about it.
Well, how did the story come about initially? I mean, we've had Hutch, or Hit, which one was it? The Will Smith one, I'm thinking of two totally different movies, but, where his character was a reluctant superhero. We've had all Hancock, thank you. We had all the gritty ones. We've also had Spartan with Sylvester Stallone. What was your desire to make Warden, and how did you get this one off the ground?
Well, I always, as a director, I always be attracted to change, kind of giving a spin to familiar genres, right? And then I started with my first short film, which is called The Flying Man, which is also a superhero film, of course, a short film, but I gave a different spin, which is seen almost as a horror film, right? And then it got like 25 million views, all that. So it was a really hit at the time, and that kind of gave me the urge to be, giving the different spins to familiar genres. And I did that with some horror films. And Warden came to me already developed from this writer and producer, and they approached me with that. And when I read, everything I liked, it was there, right? It's a superhero, but it's told in a different way as a documentary. It's kind of political. It's a reflection on society, and it's most of all, it's a very grounded take on what if a superhero really existed. So I really connected with the material. We start developing it further, and I got to produce myself. So I think it was during pandemic, which we had like some financing, but with the pandemic we lost it. And I decided to produce as I produced my own independent work. So, but this time was a feature film. So, and the result you already saw it.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is your first full-length feature.
Correct. That's correct. Yeah, I've been working on many short films, putting out there in the internet, but also directing commercials professionally. In the ad industry all over the world. But yeah, that was my first fully produced feature film. I've been developing features around, but as you know, it takes some time until it gets done. And this one was the first one.
Marcus, now that you have your full-length feature under your belt, you've been able to create a compelling story. The way I describe it is every 20 years we have this ebb and flow of we have the blockbuster, and then we have the rise of the independents, and then back to the blockbuster, and then the rise of the independents. And it seems right now we are at that pinnacle of coming back to the rise of the independents. There's the big budget Disney Snow White movie that's $400 million after you add in reshoots and budgeting and marketing. And then there's another independent Snow White film that's coming out that costs $750,000. And then, we just had Captain America 4, Brave New World, and now we have Warden, which is your independent film, personally financed, produced, and directed by you. So we're kind of seeing that shift back to the independent side of things. How exciting is that for you as an independent filmmaker to see that shift and coming about just in the right time for it, and to also tell a great story that's going to entertain people?
Well, I think I see this more like people people always will have an urge to tell stories, right? And then now technology more than ever, it's allowing people to produce high quality content in films and series and put it out there for others. And of course, I think it will be always a cycle of, finding the right platforms and how people are finding new films, because that's the most important thing now is, how to get your film found by people. And as you're mentioning, this is, to me, it's a cycle, right? Sometimes you get the big films taking over everything, and then all of a sudden you get that independent film that gets awarded, and everybody, oh wow, we should start finding new films like this one, and then they start going after it. But I think the most important are the filmmakers' resilience of trying to keep always putting independent work there and trying to be found and promoted by by people that love that and make other make audiences to find your film. And that's really important. That's why I'm very appreciative to be here, so other people have the chance to find my film, as other films that unlikely they don't have that huge budget for promotion, right? So people can see you on TV and all that. So to me, that's very important. That's the important message here, is to be finding ways to be seen. And I've found that through my short films online, back in the day when the algorithms weren't as strong as today's, right? So people were like, getting viral was even easier. Like if you put out like quality content, eventually it would get viral. Right now it's a little harder because algorithm to just drive content to specific people, and it's hard to pin the bubble. But I think it was an exciting moment back then, and I think it's starting again, with different platforms and different ways of distributing. And I think every year is changing. Like next year would be a different way, the way you're going to release your independent film. Last year was different than this year, so it's always evolving.
Right. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. I said, someone's going to break through the algorithm bubble, and just instead of going through a distributor, they're going to post it live on YouTube with the ad revenue coming in. And now they're just going to keep getting the ads as the film runs and just bypass everybody and use YouTube as the main platform for it. So you never know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, exactly. And I keep researching new models, like filmmakers that were successful at distributing their own films. And I've stepped upon some really interesting cases that it's sometimes harder to replicate because each one is very unique. But there's quite a lot now, and to me, it's fascinating to be studying and trying to find new ways, because sometimes the filmmaker, they stop by when they stop their film. But I think after you finish your film, it's a different project, right? It's like how you put it out there. Otherwise, what's the point? Nobody watches your film. So for me as a filmmaker, I'm also have this curiosity of how to put it out there, and it's fascinating to see different models, how people are doing. Like some with more followers, they can play a model just like you described, or there's some that they understood how to drive traffic to a specific platform through ads and stuff. So sometimes they have more money to invest on driving traffic. Some others do promotion and it picks up and then get viral. And there's many ones. And right now, you're in a world with flooded up with content. So the key now is how you put it out there.
I see that there's going to be a resurgence of the physical media. And I think people are going to want to have movies like Warden on their shelf. Like I want a Blu-ray copy of Warden on my shelf. I wanted to sit there and go, all right, it's Tuesday. I haven't decided what I'm going to go. Clear across, Warden, there we go. Pick it up, put it in the DVD player, and I'm good to go. I know a lot of people love streaming, but my issue with streaming is I'm going to spend an hour and a half trying to figure out what I want to watch on streaming before I actually get to anything. And luckily, you're working with Freestyle as your distributor, and they're going to help you with that, and that's fantastic. And VOD is a great way to go about these things. But I want to digress just for a minute before we get back into physical media versus streaming. You're Brazilian, and you had your premiere in São Paulo. How exciting is that for someone that's from Brazil, moves to North America from South America, establishes themselves here, and then now goes home and gets to be a part of everything again?
I mean, for a filmmaker having their film released visually, it's always exciting. I mean, it's part of, especially the road is so long, right? You develop and you produce, then you take longer to post produce, and it's about 4 years to 5, and then all of a sudden, always it comes together to a release. Of course, regardless the country, if it's my home country or Canada or US, I think it feels pretty much the same in a way that it feels like work accomplished in that way, right? And it's always exciting and scary as well, right? Because once you feel exposed because you're putting actually your work out there. And I had that feeling with my short films as well. Every release day, you never know what people will react and how they will react and how they will respond. But it's at the same time, not that I'm afraid, I'm fascinating, because you get how people react. And because, for instance, my short film, The Flying Man, that got that many million views, it's fascinating to see how people react to it in different times, because it's been almost 10 years now that I released, and at the time I released, the world was different than it is today, and the comments, they react differently to the same thing, right? And that's also interesting for a filmmaker to see, how people are reacting. For instance, Warden is releasing now. The world is in a certain state. People will see that, and they kind of automatically connect to what they're living right now, and they make associations and comparisons. And that you start getting from when you show your film in a release date. So, and to me, that's where the anxiety comes from. How they're going to see the film.
Right. But is it also a little more pressure to show it in Brazil, since you're from Brazil and you're having it at a convention there, versus if it was in Toronto? Because a North American audience is going to have a different reaction to a South American audience. A Brazilian audience is going to have a different reaction to a Argentinian audience. And
exactly.
So, when you get to go home, does it feel a little bit more pressure because you're coming home with the movie?
Yeah, in a way, yes, because the film is portrayed in Brazil, right? I shot it in a way that it's international, so it's spoken English. It's almost like a North American vision of a story happening in Brazil. So in a way, it's for both audiences, for both Brazilians, so they need to feel that it's true to them. And that's for sure, it was something that I was always taking care of, because it needs to, for a Brazilian to look at, okay, that looks like something that could happen here if that would exist. Because sometimes you see international films that it's based in a different country, and people from that country might think, oh, that doesn't look like my society, right? And so that for sure, it puts a little pressure on me to make Brazilians look at it and see, oh, yes, that sounds real. But at the same time, for an international audience, it's a total new perspective, which I'm 100% also invested in seeing how they see that, because it's spoken mostly in English, and again, it's about a story that it's not North American. It's of course fictional, but it's happening in South America. So how they see that, how they interpret. So it's kind of their vision of a story that it's local in Brazil. So yes, that puts a lot extra pressure on me.
But it's also fun to see how Brazilians are going to react to your current work, and then now you doing a full-length feature film. Obviously, the response was good in São Paulo, or else we wouldn't be talking about the film right now, especially with its North American distribution. Are you excited to see what it's going to be like here in the US when people finally get a chance to see it on Friday the 14th?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm very, very excited and counting the days to see, the reaction, how people really, because again, it's a superhero film, but if people that are used to superhero films watch this, they're gonna see something that they never saw before, on that genre. It's different. It's different. It's told differently. Thematically it's different. So not just the American audience, but every audience that is very used to the superhero genre, they might feel a little impact. Okay, that's unexpected. I would put this way, it's different. So for that reason, yes, I'm very curious to see how people will take that new format on that familiar genre.
Now, take us through the cast themselves. Giovanni De Lorenzi is playing Daniel, Ali Willows, Katrina, Brian Towns is playing Mark. When you went through the casting and putting this film together, obviously having worked with the writer Jeff, and I'm going to totally butcher his last name, so if you can help me with Jeff's last name, that'd be fantastic.
Jeff Juhas.
Juhas, thank you.
Hopefully, I'm not butchering his name too.
When you work with Jeff and finding the balance of his written word and your visual style and your vision in that regard, finding that balance and then putting the cast together, how important is that for the two of you to collaborate in that regard?
Jeff is amazing. I mean, his writing was on the spot, and usually that kind of format it calls for improvisations, right, from the actor. It's like it needs to sound real because you're shooting kind of a fake documentary, a full documentary, mockumentary. I don't know how people like to call it, but so it kind of calls for improvising, put it on your own words so it doesn't look staged or anything. But Jeff's writing, all the actors, 100% of the actors, they were so impressed by his lines that they didn't improv a word. Like they read it as it's written, and it sounds real. It sounds like different characters, and all of those actors, they really praised his writing for that. And because in Brazil, there's a different style of acting. We love here improv, right? So you get what the scene needs to be about. You get the lines, but actors love to improv on scenes, so it sounds natural. It's kind of a style that the industry here loves exploring. But this time they were very, very happy by just using his words. So it was really exciting collaborating with Jeff, and also the producers, Steve and Sarah Kinga. They were all very, very good at the development stage. Because again, this script came to me already half developed, and of course, as a director, you jump in and you ask for a little. And of course, I adapted to Brazil because at the time it was written for North America, so I kind of adapt. And funny enough, it felt very international, the script, although it was written for America. When I read this, say, oh, this sounds like something that could be happening in Brazil too. With a few little changes. So that was also interesting, as kind of a reflection on society and everything, which is thematically what the movie's about.
Yeah. Marcus, I want to ask you this, with everything coming out the way it is and the film being released on Friday, March 14, if there's one thing that you would like people to get from Warden, what would be the pinnacle of, they understood what we were going for with this film?
Well, I think the beauty of a film is people having their own interpretations, right? This is kind of my letter to a reflection to society, right? And how society is right now. And it's not about sides, it's about how I think this would come down to, if we had a superhero, because we have that kind of preconception idea of, the suited guy, that it's perfect and everybody loves him, nobody hates him. But that's not how it would happen, because we do have examples of heroes and villains, in our society and how people perceive them. Right now you see everywhere in the world, like whoever hero it is, you got like 50-50, right? 50% of people who loves them unconditionally and 50% that hates, or let's put 30-30, and then you got the middle part that kind of shifts from one side to another. So that's interesting for me to explore through, you know, the image of this kind of a traditional superhero, and the reflection of giving too much power to someone. And even the trailer, there's a line that I love saying, you gotta trust his feelings, you know, like his moral feelings, and you gotta trust it. There's no way around. There's no law to enforce. So that's what happens when you give too much power to someone. Maybe half of his actions you're gonna agree, but the other half you want. So to me, the message is for everybody to watch and see, you know, try to see themselves from outside, say, well, this is actually, I believe this. I believe this would happen. I believe there's no superhero there's no, you know, non-superhero in the real world that wouldn't look like this. And I mean, that would be the takeaway. It's a reflection. I mean, people will take different messages from the same film. And that's what's interesting to me, see how people saw my film. You know, it's not for me to spoon feed anybody and dictate anything. It's really for them to look and see what some people will dig it. Some others might not too much, as every film, right?
Marcus Alqueres, thank you so much for your time talking about Warden today. Available March 14th. Where can we find you on social media if we want to connect with you?
Well, I'm on Twitter, Instagram. I have my YouTube channel that I upload all my shorts. And yeah, I'm not as active as I want to be, but I try to put everything that is interesting from my work there.
Thank you so much, Marcus. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much, Robert.